Thanks for joining me in this series where we get to know the Viable team. Dan, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Dan Erickson, CEO and co-founder of Viable, an analytics tool for getting immediate insights out of customer feedback.
Great. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Portland, Oregon.
Okay, and now tell us where you live now.
I'm over here in Oakland. I've been in the Bay Area for the last 10 years.
How did you get your start in entrepreneurship?
So yeah, that's an untraditional path for most. Actually, both my co-founder and I ended up skipping college altogether, and straight out of high school, actually created a consulting firm up in Portland, where we grew up, to help early stage companies build their very first products. Build the MVP to help them get their first users or their first investment. We ran that for about 4 years, and over those years, we grew it up to about 8 employees, and worked with a couple dozen different companies throughout that time.
What did you do next?
Yeah, so after doing the same thing kind of over and over again for clients as a consultant, I really wanted to dig into a longer term problem. So ended up doing what basically everybody was doing back in 2010 in the tech industry, which was move to San Francisco and start working for startups. I was, at the time, I happened to be an early member of the Node.js community and did a lot of conferences there, helped organize the NodeConf and NodeCamp conferences, which ended up actually getting me an early engineering job at Yammer. I joined when we were probably 30 or 40 people total. We didn't have a product team yet or anything, and got to see the massive growth that we went through from those early days to just a few years later when Microsoft bought us. And yeah, after that, I found myself working for Microsoft for the first, which was a giant company. For the first time in my life, I found myself in a 100,000 person team, and I like to have a little bit more impact in my day-to-day on the company as a whole in my roles. So I ended up moving from Microsoft back to the very beginning, the early stage, and joined Gettable as CTO. Gettable was a construction equipment rental marketplace. We connected construction professionals with companies that rent out equipment like cranes and backhoes and dump trucks. When I joined, it was just the 2 co-founders and me, and both of the co-founders were non-technical, the CEO and the head of sales. So when I joined, we didn't have a product, we didn't have code, we didn't have a team, and it was kind of my job to build up the product there. Spent a lot of time trying to find product market fit. Grew the team up to a few engineers, did a lot of job shadowing, user research, user surveys, A/B tests, and so on and so forth, just to try to help us find the right product for that market. After raising a Series A from Social Capital, we continued down the road of trying to find product market fit, and unfortunately never quite found it. So after 4 years, we had to wind things down. From there, I was actually done thinking about product market fit. I had been in that wilderness period for way too long and wanted to go experience some hypergrowth again. So I jumped over to Ease, the cannabis delivery company. And when I joined, once again, we were probably 30 people or so. But this was a little different than Yammer in that when I joined, there was 30 people, but only 5 of those people were engineers at Ease versus over half the team was when I was at Yammer. So we had this system of duct tape and bubble gum basically holding everything together. And it was time to really build the team over there. So over the next couple of years, I grew that team from 5 engineers up to about 50 engineers, and helped grow the product team from 0 to 12. After we sort of experienced all of the crazy chaos of a brand new industry, we went through, when I joined, we were just medical only, and we went through the whole regulatory period of Prop 64 landing in California, which brought about adult use legalization, which totally changed the market, which made us change the product as well. So we actually experienced some product market fit problems there as well. Over time, we ended up nailing it. But it was a nice chaotic time. So So yeah, after that, I took some time off after my 3.5 years at ease and started doing some reading, and that's where we came up with the idea for Viable.
So tell me a little more about what led you to start Viable.
Sure. So it's really when we first started Viable, we had a slightly different product that we were building, and we started out by trying to help early stage companies find product market fit, which actually goes all the way back to the very beginning of my career when we were building products for other companies at the consulting firm. I experienced that one more time when I joined Gettable. I spent 4 years in that period trying to find product market fit, and then again in and out of it at ease as we sort of righted ourselves after the regulatory changes. So really, this theme of product market fit was pervading my entire experience, and I kept coming back to the question of what is the best way to find product market fit. And at the time, right after I left ease, I actually ran across an article by Rahul Vora over at Superhuman that laid out the process that they put together at Superhuman to measure and improve their product market fit. This process basically consisted of a user survey that was sent out, some manual tagging of data for the answers of those surveys, and then using the data that they collected, they were able to both score product market fit for themselves, as well as identify the gaps in their product to help them increase that score and find product market fit for sure. So whenever I find a process that that can be run by any company, but requires a lot of human level involvement, I reach over for automation. And so actually pulled Jeff, my co-founder, over, and we decided to design a product that would help companies run this process without having to do all the manual processing that Superhuman was doing. So we actually started the company back in January of 2020. We raised off of the idea and some mock-ups. We partnered with Craft Ventures, and Rahul Vora actually ended up investing with his partner Todd Goldberg as well, along with a handful of other investors. And we then built up that product and launched that back in June of 2020. We ended up getting a lot of traction from there, from our product hunt launch, but a lot of those early customers were very early stage companies. They were, most of them probably weren't even companies yet. In fact, they were mostly like side project type things. So not a lot of value to be extracted from that particular market. However, we started seeing usage from other companies that were much larger, that actually already had product market fit. And so we started digging in with those companies to figure out what they were doing and why they needed something like this. And turns out these companies have been collecting a lot of qualitative data, and they needed ways of understanding that data and interacting with it and finding the insights that's hidden in there. So we ended up making a small pivot away from product market fit, but staying within the customer feedback space, and built out a system to aggregate and structure customer feedback. And what I mean by that is topic extraction, sentiment analysis, emotion analysis. We basically structure all of that data to make it really easy to filter and search on. And then we took it one step further. And because we got access to GPT-3, we were able to leverage that system to allow us to actually create a first of its kind question and answer system for customer feedback. So you can actually now ask a question in plain English and get an answer generated by GPT-3, also in plain English, that's backed up by the customer data that we have aggregated for you across all of your different channels.
You talked a little bit about it, but maybe get into why companies should care about what Viable has built.
Sure. So most data that is collected by companies is actually unstructured text. It is support tickets, it's tweet responses, it's product reviews, it's Amazon reviews, it's social media mentions, and survey results. So, a lot of this sort of unstructured textual data. In fact, I've seen estimates that put it at about 80% of the data that every company collects on average is unstructured text. Up until very recently, unstructured text has been extremely difficult to work with. It required humans in the loop in order for you to extract any meaningful insight from it. However, in the last roughly 18 months, we have seen an explosion in what is known as transformer-based NLP models. The best known of which, and the most effective one, is GPT-3. What these allow us to do is really structure the data in a way that it makes it really easy to work with, but also allows us to interact with this data set in a much more natural way. Basically, companies have a lot of data that they're just not using right now. And Viable is making it easy to use.
Got it. How many hours have you spent in the GPT-3 playground?
So I was probably one of the first, easily one of the first 1,000 people to get access to GPT-3 myself back in probably June of 2020. And I would estimate that I have put in at least a few hours a week since then. I put myself somewhere in the 100+ hours mark by now.
That's pretty good. Okay, so tell me what excites you most about your work right now.
We're really on this forefront of human language understanding. I think that it's just so cool that I get to work with this sort of cutting edge technology every day in a way that is immediately beneficial to our customers. It's really cool to be able to take this sort of scientific sci-fi kind of system and then apply it to such a sort of broad problem set that every company has experienced. So it's just really cool to be able to take this awesome piece of technology and apply it to such a large market.
Okay, well, thank you so much for that. I have just one more question for you. If you could recommend a book right now, what would it be?
It would be Thinking in Systems by Danilo Meadows. It's all about systems thinking, which I've been able to apply in many different parts of my career, from sort of engineering architecture all the way to organization design, and even putting in place communication processes and things like that. It's one of the most applicable academic subjects that I think I've studied in general.
Well, thank you for your time. That is a wrap for us.